there's a model which I know you recognise, and it's called business as usual. And to me, I said to James earlier, that's a swear word. You know, we don't like business as usual. If business as usual sums up all the things that fail in business, all the stresses, all the anxieties, all the griefs, all the kind of the oppression, all of the internal politics, all of that really, really difficult experience around business as usual. We don't like that. So I thought, well, what is it that we do that's different? And this idea of working to have fun became quite central for me. So I found this amazing quote by Toynbee. The supreme accomplishment is to blur the line between work and play. That's it. That's what goes on here. So the challenge, I think, if we're going to translate some of that model, and I will share with you as we go through a little bit more about how it works for us, the challenge is, how do we make work more playful, and how do we make play more meaningful? Because if you are going to blur that line, it's got to be to some advantage. This, by the way, this is the Edge Race Cup. It's a kite surfing competition, it's a national competition. It's run every year by 4-time world champion Steph Bridge, who is based at Exmouth, amazing woman, and we've been sponsoring it for those last 4 years. 5, I think, actually. So that's the challenge. So let's have a look at 10 steps to achieving that work-play balance. Now, before we go through these, what I have to say is I was full of admiration for this work that you guys have done, and it's made me realise that we're really bad at this. We keep thinking we're good at it, but we're really bad at it because we don't do a lot of the planning. A lot of this has happened by accident. And I think this has happened because it's fallen out of that culture that Mark has created, that he's encouraged by recruiting the people that he recruits. But there's a certain amount of planning that we do. There is a certain amount, and we can talk about those. But what's great from having seen your presentation is the room for both. It's this tremendous room for both. The very planned, carefully researched effort to make a difference in the workplace. And the completely random, it falls out of this idea that work should be fun element. And I think there is room for both, and I invite you to engage in that way of looking at it. So the first point I wanted to make is that there's a sense with us of work is home too. So wherever it is that we're working, there is a difference, obviously. When you're at home, that's your castle. You can do what you like in your castle. But you can do almost what you like in Mark's castle. Almost. Not quite. But certainly there's a lot more room to express yourself, to enjoy the journey, to really engage with one another in a comfortable way, in an interesting and exciting way. And it's not about impressing people. It's so not that. In fact, that's probably the way to lose your role in the company as quickly as possible. So what we tried to do, and certainly at the time I joined ATAS, we were looking at building this office. This happened about a year after I joined. So a lot of the research was done, but we were tweaking it a little bit at the time I was there. And when this was built, this was designed to be a place in which people could deliver their best potential. So it was totally created as a space to succeed. And what went into that included a trim track. In the previous slide you saw me standing on that zigzaggy trim track which is built and landscaped into the hill around the building. A 5-side football field outside, fully functional gym, fantastic suite of changing rooms and showers, and incidentally the heat from the server room comes down and dries the towels in the changing room. It's pretty cool. We have lovely, comfortable, safe, secure bicycle sheds, which are opened with a key fob. So if you are going to buy a very, very expensive bike because you're a serious cyclist, you want to be sure it's going to be locked up safely and looked after. So a lot of these things were planned in. We didn't build the swimming pool. I know. Had to make some asking earlier if we'd visited Google, and actually I didn't, but my boss did. So, you know, we did think about having that little slide that goes down one layer and arrives at the bottom. We thought, can we do that in a poll, you know, like a fireman's spot? Those things didn't happen. But we created space. We have more pool tables. We have more dartboards. We have, you know, various other toys and games as well in the building. But it's a space that people really enjoy. So to start thinking about how you can adapt your space, I'm not suggesting, you know, one thing I have to say is I have been so thoroughly spoiled. I've never been more spoiled by an employer, but equally I've never worked for a more successful one. So I think there is a correlation that's worth bearing in mind. This happens once or twice a year. We just go out to the races and have good fun time. But it's an opportunity to get away, to get a different perspective. And if you're standing around looking at horses and thinking about who's going to win and, you know, and having a beer together and having some food together, it's a nice environment in which you can start thinking a little bit differently about some of the challenges that are cropping up in work. So I do encourage you to look at opportunities for taking that distant view. And that's something that we will do as well in the exercise that's following. We'll look at doing things differently, seeing things differently. The next thing is we want to be able to take a break now and again. So the races happens twice a year. This happens 2 or 3 times a day. It's really important that you can get away from your desk, that you can find somewhere else to be, to give you that distance. What's the value of that? What's the value of that creative distance from your work, just from 10 minutes? What difference does it make?
Space renovation?
Yeah, exactly. Space renovation. If your business is about innovating, that's exactly what you have to do. Yeah, terrific. So taking that break is really important. Now I would say that this is another way of looking at teamwork. A team, if you choose to see it this way, a team is a party with a purpose. It means that really the challenge then is to say, what could we achieve? What could this opportunity allow us to do? So if we set up a little party event and we say, right, now we're going to look at, you know, it could be anything at all. Let's have an increase of 10% productivity today. How are we going to do it? Well, have a team party to work that out. I'm not saying it has to be that formal. And some of these things are formal, some of these things are informal, some of these things are internal, some of them are external. This was an external event we were sponsoring. But it was a great event. And this was getting young people at universities to think about world issues and use their skills, their coding skills, their IT skills, to set up initiatives that could address and challenge them. And there was a project here which was all about looking at renewable energy in Africa. And if you're trying to set up rigs of solar panels and so on in Africa, you don't have a lot of suppliers hanging around with their local depots available if you've forgotten a certain widget. So it's all about managing the supply chain. And one of the outcomes from here was a little app which allows you, if you're completely off grid somewhere, to find your nearest supplier for that particular widget you're looking for, so that you don't waste hours and hours and hours looking for. This was an internal one. So maybe looking at mixing it up. How can we actually work a little bit more differently together? How can we find ways to take some of our normal work time, our normal activities, and put them in a different context? So here, the senior guys and girls are the ones around the edge who are standing up. The more junior ones, they're working in teams. So they've got team mentors and they're trying to challenge each other to win the outcome for that particular task. I would always say that fast can be more fun. So if you're, I mean, there are people here who are enthusiastic about sport. Is that true? If you enjoy a little bit of sport, please raise your hand. Please. Yes, there we go. So we've got a few sporty-minded people in the room. So the challenge is to say, what can you do more quickly? And this is about saying, well, if I'm going to have a meeting, going to have a serious board meeting now, serious, very important. Come on then, get your running gear on, let's go. Right, so what happened in year 3? and just getting out there and having the energy to go for a walk meeting. It doesn't have to be a run meeting, but a walk meeting rather than a sitting down and what's it meeting? Now we were very, very lucky for the last 2 years. Santa's reindeer have visited the ATAS family Christmas party. Now, I'm not sure whether they're coming this year, but we can only hope. So the reason I thought I wanted to share this with you, because it's about blurring that line between work and play, but it involves the whole family. What happens when you involve the whole family in the fun stuff of the business? Make a difference. Yeah, so getting some good nods there, that's good. So it's, if we can engage more with the working life, with the family life of somebody, you're going to get more out of the working life. Is that fair? This is all about, again, it's 6 months different from Christmas, so it's seasonal. Seizing the opportunity to say, you know what we need to do? We just need to go and get that breath of fresh air. So it's about taking the distance away, but instead of it being just a break during the day, we're going to take staff out and say, come to work tomorrow, bring your walking boots, bring a hat because it's going to be sunny. Don't worry about the picnic, we'll sort that out. But yeah, just be prepared. You can bring your dog if you want. And then organising an event, everybody piles into cars or coaches, and then you just go off and enjoy the countryside. Go and enjoy Devon's wildlife. Fantastic, it's all there. And most of the time during the working day it's empty. So go fill it up. Get busy. So this is about partnership. And the partnership approach to me is absolutely essential to having any kind of success at all. And I mean, it's wonderful to see so many people who I know who kind of connect up and who join together and who work together. We've worked together on an educational trust. We've, business games, football in the community, and all of these initiatives that we're involved with because we like the people, we like doing that together, we like the objectives, we share the same objectives. So let's look at how can we get really creative to maximise the outcomes of doing that. Now, the reason I thought this was worth including in this particular discussion is what we did with Exeter City Football Club was we said, okay, we've got a big commitment to supporting Devon Ambulance Trust. So we're going to sponsor, and this was going back to the big bank days, we're going to sponsor the big bank with branding that encourages the fans to support Devon Ambulance. Simple. Simple. And that meant it was a win-win-win-win-win. There were opportunities for everybody to benefit in that. And how did that impact on the business? It gave our staff a sense of identity and connectivity with the football club. So our guys would go down and watch the game, which in itself is an activity. So get active, you're going to have fun. And it gave us a chance to kind of look creatively at how we could make a difference to 2 organisations at once with only 1 pot of funding. Boom! That's the game, isn't it? That's the game. If you're going to play it, you may as well look for that. And finally, I would say success is far too important to take seriously. So you have to build in opportunities to celebrate and let your staff celebrate in style, in the way that they would do. So those are my 10 tips